Titano Finance, one of my favorite crypto projects since its original launch date, November of 2021. It was the first of its kind auto staking token that paid out a whopping 102,000% APY. You simply purchase the token, hold it in your wallet, and you start earning compounding payouts daily. And trust me, I know what you're thinking.
What could possibly go wrong?
But at the time, these high APY projects were skyrocketing in price. And Titano Finance had some serious competitive advantages over other projects out there, like Olympus DAO, which required you to manually stake and unstake every time you wanted to transfer funds in and out of the project. Since Titano is built on the Binance Smart Chain, the transaction fees are far lower than its competitors, making it extremely accessible and easy to use. It had all of the momentum in the world going for it until the price of the Titano token and the rest of the crypto market began to crash in April of 2022. And since then, no matter what the Titano team did to add utility to the token and generate returns for their holders, such as developing a DEX, adding gambling functionality, and even doing buybacks and burns, nothing really seemed to work, and the price and investor sentiment continued to steadily decline month over month, largely due to crypto entering a bear market, but it was also because of an unsustainable 102,000% interest rate. Although it hasn't been without hardships and hurdles that they've needed to overcome, the Titano team has continued to impress me time and time again with their ability to develop new products in order to bring utility to the token. They've had great communication pretty much on a weekly basis ever since they first started, and their ability to pivot the project when they need to in order to do right by their investors. And in their most recent update last week, they announced that they would be transitioning the project fully to a new name and project called Swych, which is actually a decentralized exchange they began developing sometime last year. So in this video, we'll be reviewing why the Titano team decided to pivot the project to Swych, the opportunity that's ahead, the key features and announcements that they've made, some of the hardships that they might be faced with as they make this transition, and why I ultimately feel that this is actually a great transition for them to make. Let's jump into it. As I mentioned before, the Titano team has tried everything and anything to stop the steady decline in price. However, it was determined that the high APY was now getting in the way of the company's progression. And on February 20th, they announced that the company would be migrating over to Swych. And if you haven't been following it very closely, no worries, that's what this video is about. Here's what this all means. The team let us know that there would be two phases to the rollout. The first phase they're calling the distribution phase, which is basically meant to get as many Swych tokens into the hands of their investors as possible, and also determine what the total available token amount will be. Here's what the distribution phase looks like. All Titano holders will receive a 1-to-1 USD value of their Titano tokens in Swych tokens when the migration occurs. So that means if you have $100 worth of Titano tokens, you're going to receive $100 worth of Swych tokens. The insanely high auto staking APY goes away, which has actually already stopped on Titano token about a week ago, which is why the price has increased so dramatically. The Swych token launch occurs between March 6th and 13th, which allowed the time to audit the protocol. The buy tax goes to 0% and sales tax goes to 10%, which actually has already taken place as well for the current Titano token. So that means there's no fees when you buy the token, but when you do sell, you're going to be hit with a fee of 10%. So it encourages more buying action, which will help the price increase. The starting price of the Swych token will be 1 cent. So I think Titano is, currently it's like 0.000001. It'll be a big change, but it'll be nice to have a new chart, new price chart. That way, it's not so tainted when new investors are looking to buy in. The migration process will go as follows. So trading on Titano stops. The snapshot will be taken. Swych tokens are then airdropped to all of the Titano holders, and then trading for Swych tokens is re-enabled. And they expect that this should take about 3 to 6 hours in total once migration starts, which it hasn't started yet. Most of the current games and lottery functionality that Titano has will be carried over to the Swych website, so they're able to save a lot of the current use cases and functionality and just move it over. Staking will be available, and it'll have a fixed APY of 500%. There are no locking periods and only an exit fee of 3% when you unstake. And the payouts will be paid in Swych tokens. Again, trying to get as many Swych tokens into the hands of the holders as possible during this distribution phase. This phase will last roughly 40 to 60 days. There will be buybacks and burns that will be done automatically at random times throughout the day, every 24 to 72 hours. And this will, of course, help the price action increase, and it drives the overall supply down. And they are implementing called an available trading balance, which is meant to prevent dumping of the token, and it encourages token accumulation, and it limits the amount of selling that you can do every 10 days. It gets quite a bit more complicated than that, but that's the easiest way to sum it up. The second phase of the rollout, they're calling growth phase, and here's what that looks like. The available trading balance, taxes, and pretty much all the fees go away. The token enters a phase where it becomes deflationary, meaning the ability to mint new tokens no longer exists. So there will be a fixed amount of tokens. You can't create any more. And all revenue will be generated from utilities such as games, lotteries, as well as fees that are generated from the DEX. The fixed APY of 500% goes away and instead is replaced with a variable APY that's paid out from real yield, meaning revenue that the company generates. You will need to stake tokens, which will now have a locking period, and it'll be paid out in other tokens such as ETH, BTC, whatever they have available to pay out. So again, they're not just creating more Swych tokens and getting it in your hands. It'll be a fixed amount, which is why it's deflationary, and I'll get to more about that in a sec. Since the taxes, fees, and limits will be removed in this phase, this means that they're going to be able to list the Swych token on centralized exchanges, bringing new investors into the project. They're going to continue doing the buybacks and burns every 24 to 72 hours automatically, and they'll be getting rid of available tokens, which makes it deflationary. They are building out the DEX to become a perpetual DEX, which allows for leverage trading and other features, and should bring a nice bit of revenue into the project. So here's what this all means. After listening to the founding team's recent update videos and researching some of the perpetual DEXs out there and seeing the price action, it really seems like this was a necessary change for the team to make. And not only just to make and keep them relevant, but also to make this project a huge success so that they can continue developing new features and new products to make this a huge impact in the crypto space. And Titano, as much as we all loved it and wanted it to work, the high APY simply wasn't sustainable anymore. And it caused the project to have a tainted look from their investors and even partners they were looking to collaborate with. The team found themselves having to overcome continuous hurdles and problems because of this, further slowing the growth of the project. By migrating the project to Swych, it allows us to be blessed with a brand new price chart, also be listed on centralized exchanges, and it opens up the possibilities for brand new features and products that we just didn't have access to before. A few products that are an integral part to crypto, such as your wallets, exchanges, bridge platforms, etc. The vision that the team has for Swych is not to just make it another DEX. Those are a dime a dozen. But they want to make it an integral part of the crypto ecosystem, make it a hub for all projects on the Binance Smart Chain. Right now, the problem with most DEXs is that you come in, you swap out a couple tokens, and then you're off to the races. But for Swych, they want to build out an entire ecosystem of products that allows them to retain users. It's also a hub for projects to come in, launch, and grow faster. They claim that they want to sink their teeth into the 90% of projects that fail, not because they have bad teams or bad ideas, but simply because they didn't have the right ecosystem to launch on. And they want to help those projects reach success by launching on Swych. And this is actually a concept that they've already tested and proved with another project called Unico. With all that being said, here are my honest thoughts and opinions. I think overall, this was a very smart move for the team to make. The Titano token was not working. They did everything they could to try and make it work, but they were right to feel that the rebasing feature was their Achilles heel. Other perpetual DEXs that have recently launched, like GMX and Swych Finance, have had very successful launches. Because of that, the price of their native token has continued to skyrocket at a pretty consistent, steady pace, even while the rest of crypto has entered a bear market. This is thanks to a high trading volume and a growing number of users. And the Titano team claims that if we can just capture a small percentage of the other competitors' success, then we'll be in a pretty good spot moving forward. and I tend to agree with this. I really like the ideas that the team has about making Swych into a central hub for all of crypto. However, I feel like the team is going to be met with a ton of difficulties that they haven't really anticipated before getting the project to this point. I feel like they really do have a strong desire of getting the project to this point. I mean, they're still here after a year and a half. They could have rug pulled. They could have not given us any updates. They could have just taken the money and not made this switch in the first place, but they've stuck to it. And my only concern is that their Q2 roadmap and the rest of the year doesn't seem to be planned out, and that is cause for some concern. I do believe in the team, and I do like them as people, and I appreciate all the work that they've been putting into this project over the last 1.5 years, despite all the FUD and issues that they've been faced with. Dare I say it, but I might even say that I trust these guys, which is extremely rare in crypto, especially in DeFi. I believe in them overall to make this project a success. But if I could give them any tips or advice, I would tell them that they need to come out with some heavy-hitting features that really separate them from any of the other perpetual DEXs on the market. I mean, the Launchpad is a start, but and I'm sure many other investors kind of struggle to see how this is all going to come together and add value to the project. And it's not like Launchpads are an entirely new idea anyways. DeFi requires innovation, and if I were in their shoes, I'd be trying to come up with as many new and groundbreaking ideas that no other company has implemented before. Something that is highly experimental and is able to pay out real yield to its investors and support sustainable growth for the price of a token. Slightly off topic, but a company that's a perfect example of this is a company called Circuit. Circuit is a rideshare app that provides 100% free rides to anyone in the downtowns of major metropolitan areas. Just like Uber or Lyft, you download the app, then you set your drop off and pick up locations, and in a few minutes, you're picked up by a 100% electric golf cart looking vehicle. To which I learned about 80% of the funding comes from advertising on the vehicles themselves. They're kind of like these moving billboards. And the other 20% comes from city funding for green and public transportation initiatives. And although Circuit is not a DeFi company by any stretch of the imagination, it shows how a company can achieve amazing results and offer this amazing utility for its users by innovating on the approach it takes to get there. Again, if I were in Titano's shoes right now, I would be thinking of a similar way of how I can take the project to the next level using the same methodology. And that's it for today's video, everyone. I want you all to know how much I appreciate every single one of you for sticking to the end of this video and giving two craps for what this random guy on the internet has to say. I know this channel is still relatively small, or actually quite small, but I just appreciate everyone that has subscribed and cares about what I have to say about anything. So thank you so much for watching all the way through. I will see you again in a couple of weeks. Peace.